If I ran away from all I see, would I be fine with everything? No matter how much I really wanna stay, holding on, holding on.
Hey guys, it's Xewleer, the once and future mercenary king, here with Gredora. I have been waiting for this deck for a long time. All false bravado aside, you know, this is the support Megacolony has needed for years. At no point have they ever been like equal to everyone else, but now I finally think that we've gotten there. That we can at least have much more of a chance than we did. Previously, my Darkface deck, the OG one, was a game of solitaire. This is much more aggressive, much better. IYG Ashamat. Much better for Megacolony in general. Like, it's one of those things. They're getting the things that help them win. Let's talk about the deck. First off, we have one Outstanding Mutant Promulava. It's the starter. Auto Rearguard Counterblast 1 put into Soul. At the beginning of your ride phase, it's not GB locked. You may pay the cost if you do draw a card and tap all your opponent's units. Basically, it's to prevent various things from happening that could prevent Dark Device abilities from going off. However, it's also a great choice when you don't have an ideal ride. So you beginning of ride phase, draw the top card. Maybe it's, instead of a Vulgar Blister, it's a Dangerous Horn. So you get lucky there. Let's do my trigger lineup. 4 crits, 4 stands, 4 draws, 4 heals. Heals are the new one. I feel like I should be running 2 Sweet Relishes and 2 of these guys, but I haven't done enough testing yet to be complete. You know, we'll figure it out, you know, sort of. We're figuring out sort of phase. But I'm actually pretty happy with this build so far. This is when you G-Guard, for the cost of a G-Guard, pay the cost if you do Counter Charge or Soul Charge by binding 2 of them up there. They don't have to be Machining Snow Wings, but they do have to be heals. Now, I do think they missed out on a point of not making it a Moth Girl like Cocoon, but oh well. 4 Ingot Chafers. At this point in Vanguard, there's really no excuse on having a trigger without an ability. Whether you can run 12 stands with all different abilities in like Metalborgs, or like OTT, or fucking Cosmic Heroes too. Like, there's a lot of abilities out there. Stands to crits to anything else. This is a Marvel clone. It's actually like just adding this to Megacolony boosted my Darkface's skills so much, and they'll help you too. Honestly, they're not so much there for the plus 3k or anything like that, but like these two together can create an 11k column. They're just there for whatever you need. I run 4 Megacolony Battler Gs. Now, there's a stand trigger that's like at the beginning of either of your main phases or stand phases or something, you can send her into Soul or retire her or something like that, and prevent a grade 1 from restanding and countercharge 1. The problem with her is that it requires field on the opponent's side, and it also is a minus that is dependent on timing. This guy is basically just during the main phase you can put into Soul and countercharge. I found that this deck is, even though it's a bunch of 1 counterblasts, it's a bit of a counterblast hog. So having to switch to this does help, especially if your opponent is intelligent and is manipulating your damage counterblasts, which is what Gredora seems to be a bit weak to. He's key. Also, a lot of your attackers outside of Brilliant Blister do swing for above 16k and above, as well as your strides give out power like Overwhelm and Anguish Sword. So having sand triggers in there really do work. And then I have 4 crit triggers. These crit triggers do the damage. They go into soul plus 5k, draw a card. I think every deck should run at least 4 crits. Like, sure, you can run an all-stand Enigman build, not Enigman, Enigmatic Assassin build, or Kagero, or something like that, because they got some pretty decent skills on those stand triggers. But the problem is that this is what kills people. If you're running a deck without stands, I no longer have to guard the Vanguard until I'm at 5 damage. You know, let's say that you're running Guild Array, and you, like, oh, let's say you're running Blader Mouse with Dark Irregulars, right? You do the skills. You don't have crit triggers. I'm at 3 damage. I take both. Or I perf the second one. Or I don't even perf the second one. I take I take the first one, perf the second one. Like, there's no point to a lot of it. Sure, the rear guards are more deadly, but at the same time, 3 Brilliant Blisters. This card also changed the game for Megacolony. When this unit is placed on Guardian Circle from hand, choose one of your... Just checking. Choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and that unit cannot stand during that turn. Now, there's a new Gear Chronicle unit that allows another turn after this one. And they've always had them from the first trial deck, so, you know, it's not like it's any different. But basically, it doesn't prevent that. But things like Beyond Order, Dota... actually, a lot of the Dote cards. Like, if they fight you with Dote, and it's like, okay, 1 pass, but you can't restand even if you hit, like, that's the sort of thing you run them for. There's a lot of, like, Ziegenbergs and Blader Mouses and just everything out there. He doesn't have to guard a Vanguard. Just play him, all right? Like, I know people are like, yeah, but what about bad drip so you can draw another card? First off, your soul's actually pretty precious with this build. And secondly, you know, what's the point of drawing a card if it's a grade 3 and you can't guard with it, okay? Like, oh, well, I can kill him ahead of time. Okay, good luck. Try it out. And then they Ziegenberg you, and they do it for free, because that's how the deck works, if they're doing it right. I run 3 Vulcan Laferty. Resist, and because I have a Darkface Vanguard, and at the beginning of main phase, I can put into Soul to countercharge. Again, countercharge, but it's also a pretty decent booster for a lot of these things. 3 Little Dorcas, more Stride. I could probably replace these with Twilight Matter, because Vulgar Blister retires himself for a free Stride, but I like the idea of him better. He's just a Stride Enabler for Darkface. 1/3. So it's 3/3/3, 4. Adherence Mutant Black Weevil. Choose a card from your hand, discard it. This is a perfect shield. But it only does Dark Faces. Huh. I keep forgetting it has that skill. Dark Face specific. So you can't use it in machining or anything like that. Act Drop Zone. Choose 2 of him and bind them face up. Draw a card, countercharge, or soul charge. I never soul charge. I only really countercharge with him. Again, the draw's nice, though. It is really nice. Like, there's a lot of, like, hidden draw in this deck. Like, this used to be a Twilight Matter, and I used to draw a little bit more. And it's still just, like, a beefy hand. Remember, Overwhelm is ya boy. If you're not overwhelming, you're not really playing the deck as it should be. I run 4 Vulgar Blisters. This unit is in the front row. All of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as this unit cannot stand during your opponent's stand phase. By the way, this isn't GB locked. Neither of his skills are GB locked. It is good for you to play him early. If the opponent doesn't have a field and you're worried about striding, you can place him in the back row, protect him, and then you can kill him for a stride. Very cheap. Continuous rearguard. You may choose a Vulgar Blister from your rearguard and retire it as a cost of stride for a G unit with Dark Device. Just so you know, Dark Device. This doesn't have Dark Device, but that's okay. At this late in the game, you should have something. This isn't Dark Device. Oh no. Oh, Dark Device. Not Dark Device. That was before Dark Device. But basically, your 2 main strides, Overwhelm and Anguish Sword. Anguish Sword is a minor main one, by the way. Like, I'll talk about him later. But basically, you get a stride for either of these 2. It's very nice. I run 4 Bulk Wasps. Auto GB1 Dark Device. When this unit is placed on rearguard, this unit gets plus 2k. If the number of face-down cards until end of turn, this unit gets plus 2k. If the number of face-down cards, if the number of face-down cards in your opponent's damage zone is 2 or more, tap all your opponent's units and it gets plus 5k. I don't use him as much as Dangerous Horn, but he is just a great guy to just pull out and start beating face with. The fact that he comes out as a 16k when you don't have boosters is actually pretty fantastic. And the fact that Gredora flips over damage, people are usually using damage as soon as the second turn. Counterblasts, as soon as they have them, you know, he can get a plus 5k and tap everything. Like, he's very good, like, when you're going into Overwhelm and they've somehow kept their starter untapped. You know, he can put an end to that. Lastly, we have 4 Dangerous Horn. When this unit is placed on Vanguard or Rearguard, choose a card from your hand and reveal it. If neither that card nor your Vanguard is a Dark Face, this unit gets minus 5k. Because it gets minus 5k, it's a 5k attacker. However, during the opponent's turn, it returns to 10k. Continuous Rearguard. If you have a grade 4 Vanguard with Dark Face in its card name, by the way, Striding gives Dark Face to the name. If the number of opponents stood rearguards is 1 or less, this unit gets plus 6k. So it's a 16k attacker. Like, you can combine him with Bulg Wasp to basically guarantee 16k attacks. And then if you've got, like, Overwhelm on the field and they've got, like, 3/5 over damages, they're 22k apiece. Like, I just went full bore beef on this. Vulgar Blister notwithstanding. Vulgar Blister's first skill is why I keep him, actually. When this unit front row, all rearguards, same column as this unit cannot stand. So basically, I place him on the column I have not locked down with Gredora. Just you know, pushing this, you know, giving this guy a little bit of a spoiler, you know. I'll do Gredora last. I'll do the meme first. I run 1 Undefeated Mutant of Vectrazeus. His abilities are Act, Vanguard, Limit Break 4, Counterblast 2. This unit gets plus 10k, and choose a rearguard, one of your opponent's rearguards, and that unit cannot stand. I don't do that. Alright? That's not the ability I use it for. The ability I use it for is this one, as well as Lord. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, retire all the grade 1 or less rearguards of all fighters. So if I'm going into him, I use Primal Lava early so that I get that draw off. Then I wipe their starter and whatever field they've had. I've wiped as many as 4 to 5 units. Like, I've wiped fields with this guy before, and it is hilarious. There's nothing better than minusing 5 your opponent or forcing them to rebuild their field in a less ideal circumstance. Like, Megacolony is designed so that it doesn't need boosters. Vulgar Blisters, you know, like the Bulg Wasp and Dangerous Horn is what I mean. They don't need boosters. I have Vulcan Laferty in there for his utility. And Brilliant Blister isn't a booster. So, you know, it's not one of those things. It's designed to work. This guy benefits off of that. Prevents minuses to you, minuses the opponent. Megacolony is still a minus game, even though it's focused more on power. I run 3 Dark Face Alcides. Auto Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, place on Vanguard Rearguard. Choose a column, tap all their rearguards, and they cannot stand during the opponent's next stand phase. Continuous Vanguard Rearguard. GB2 Dark Device. During the battle, this unit attacked Vanguard, plus 10k, and they cannot intercept. Now, it can only not intercept during the battle, but that's still pretty good. And if I have Vulcan Lafertes on the field, that's just doubled up. He's a great solo attacker, and that's what I use him for. I rarely ride him as the Vanguard. I ride him over him any day, because I always make sure to use Primal Lava if this thing's going to go down. But yeah, 21k attacker. He can easily hit like 26k plus with Overwhelm and other things. Sure, he needs a little help with like Anguish Sword and whatnot, but he's still very powerful. The star of the deck are these 4 Gredoras. Auto Vanguard once per turn, Counterblast 1. When this unit is placed on Vanguard, or when your G unit strides, once per turn, remember, pay the cost. If you do, choose a column, and your opponent cannot call cards to rearguard in that column during that turn. Now, there's 2 ways to do that. Either you choose a column that's empty, which is probably the best play overall, or you choose the column. Let's say that they have a full field. I choose the column that has a Vulgar Blister, or the strongest column, and then put a Vulgar Blister. So you shut down that column. They cannot call over those things normally, but they can do it during your turn, by the way. And people are like, oh, you know, it cancels it out. Well, yeah, sure, but you have to, like, pay for it, right? You still have to either overguard with a G-Guard, or you have to use some esoteric skills that, you know, interfere with it. And even then, you know, that might not stop him from his business. You have to kill him so he doesn't use a skill, so you can use that column anyway. Her second skill is also amazing. Auto Vanguard GB1, Soul Blast 1, at the beginning of your ride phase, pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses a face-up card, and his or her damage zone turns it face down, and you countercharge. You countercharge whether or not he has damage to turn face down. So if he's got 5 damage flipped over, guess what? You get the, I really wish I had an SP version of her. You guys don't even understand. You get the countercharge, which pays for her skill right here, or for Overwhelm. Choose Overwhelm a little bit over that, because you might get the guard for your opponent's attacks. Like, over the lock of it. Because, like, Vulgar Blister will still... Let's say Vulgar Blister's here, but you have to choose between her and Overwhelm. Because your opponent's being intelligent and controlling how much counterblast you have at any given time. And forcing you to, like, make choices. You know, don't worry about it. This guy will keep a column from restanding. If you place 2, guess what? They both keep them both from restanding. And that forces the opponent to replace them. Better to go for Overwhelm. Get the extra draw. You know, 3 to 5 cards is fantastic, right? For a counterblast. Or an extra drive and a crit for a counterblast. Like, it's good stuff, alright? Don't worry about it. She is an amazing card. She works wonders. I really can't wait to take her to all the tournaments, showing off my awesome Spider Mom. Spider Mom, Spider Mom. Yep, totally. Except this one isn't eaten by her young, I'm hoping. How Freudian is that? Shit. Anyway, she's the face of the deck. And she does her work outstandingly. Riding into him is bad, and he's funny as shit when he goes off. You just have to be careful about it. And the Dark-Face name isn't shabby either. Evil Governor, Dark-Faced Gredora. Let's talk about G-Guards and move our way up to Overwhelm. I run 2 of the new one, Morphosian. When this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, if the number of your opponent's rear guards that are stood is 2 or less, this unit gets plus 10k until end of battle. Yeah, it's just a 36k. It doesn't require Vanguard or anything like that. I run 1 Colburn. Choose a card from your hand, discard it. When this unit is placed on G during the battle of your opponent's Vanguard attack, pay the cost. If you do, plus 5k for every 2 cards in the opponent's hand. Yeah, it's pretty explanatory. You know, if the opponent has a huge hand, I play him and I get over 36k. If I'm playing an opponent that doesn't play a big hand, by the Vanguard attack, I don't play him, and I use him as fodder for Relish Lady. I run 1 Grease Fort. Yeah, that's right, it's SP. Auto Counterblast 1. When this unit is placed on Guardian Circle during the battle that your unit was attacked by your opponent's Vanguard, pay the cost. Tap all the units in your opponent's back row, plus 5k guard, for every 2 of your opponent's tapped units until end of battle. Basically, I use him to wreck opponent's 16k columns. Let's say I'm facing an opponent that requires boosters or has a certain level of boost given out throughout the field. Let's say I was facing an Overwhelm attack, right? So, and I've got like 3 flipped over damages. Sure, I give an extra 2k to everything. However, I also minus each column, or rather, I minus the 2 side columns by 15k. That's too good not to pass up, even though it powers up Overwhelm a little bit more. And that's just an example that comes to mind. If I'm facing like Nova Grapplers, or Dimensional Police, like Laurel, if somebody's like, if some brave, beautiful bastard's still running Laurel, just tapping the back row shuts Laurel down. And then as well as if I don't have a Brilliant Blister in hand. If I have a Brilliant Blister in hand, I throw it down. Fuck you, I let it hit. And then, you know, there's not much else to it. I run 2 Relish, 7 stars Mutant Deity Relish Lady. Auto GB1, choose a face down, a G Guardian, turn it face up. When this unit is placed on Guardian Circle during the battle, the opponent's Vanguard attacked. I've got like 4 Vanguard specific G Guards. It's very frustrating for me. You may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent chooses 2 of his or her rear guards, and he or she may tap them. They don't have to. If they don't tap 2 cards, you draw a card and countercharge and soul charge. You can see why I run 2. Drawing during the opponent's battle phase is incredibly powerful. I have used both of them at once. I have literally gone 1, 2, boop, boop. These things don't leave the Guardian Circle, so you can keep going until you're at 4. That means I use up all 6, I don't waste them. And then, of course, I use the heal's innate soul charge or countercharge skill based on what I want, shutting down the opponent's overwhelm. Let's talk about my tech strides. I run 1 Seabreeze for obvious reasons. I don't like using it. And the reason for that is simple. It's 2 counterblasts and a card from your hand during a time when you're setting up your engines. I would need 3 counterblasts during my Gredora turn to properly use Seabreeze and not waste her own skill, which is very important, especially if you're being rushed by a certain way. And then, of course, you run Vanguard Blisters as well. Vanguard Blisters counter early rush. You may be like, oh, 7k. Yeah, man. 7k, and your opponent cannot restand a column. Against, like, 7Cs, Nova Grappler, early Beast Deity Rush, sure, they can restand them by certain cards, but it's just the forcing them to take that extra step. Remember, it is sure they can restand them with Nova Grapplers, but they still have to take those skills. Like that's the key. Like it's not the ending bit that's the difficult part. It's the starting anyway. Getting started on it. I run 1 Paraspear. This is for games where I don't have the counterblasts to use either Gredora's to use Overwhelm. Let's say I'm facing an opponent and it's too early for Tarantus, but it's but I can't use Overwhelm for counterblast reasons. I use this, I tap all their rear guards, I get a draw card, he gets plus 5k. So he's a 31k attacker, and that's pretty good. It's nothing compared to Overwhelm or anything like that. But at the same time, that extra plus 5k, plus whatever else I'm doing with the rear guards, which means that there's like a 16k and a 33k column right here, you know, can really do a lot for you. And it also shuts down pesky plays where the opponent, like, is like, I'm gonna mess with you and I'm gonna leave everything untapped. I mean, okay. You know, and I don't have a Bulk Wasp in hand. You know, I get around things. This deck is all about having options and then punishing the opponent no matter what he does. But unlike in the original Darkface, you let him do things and then you spank him. Mommy spank. And then I run 1 Anguish Sword. I might add another one and get rid of an Obturandus. But honestly, I like the Obturandus just fine. I never use it though. Like if I'm using Overwhelm, by the way, I usually go like this one and then an Obturandus, or depends on really where the cards are going. His skill is Act Vanguard once per turn Dark Device. Your opponent has to have no units stood in the same column as this unit. Counterblast 1, choose up the same number of your units as the number of your opponent's tapped units, and they get plus 4k. If you chose 3 or more cards, draw a card and countercharge. So he's kind of free if you've got the 1 counterblast. And he's an act, and he's not based on any other skills, really. So you could set up something with, like, him or whatnot. But then the question is, why aren't you using Overwhelm? To get more cards and provide more power to your rear guards. In fact, Overwhelm doesn't need to flip over anything for their second skill. I run 2 Obturandus, mostly just in case I need them. Act Vanguard GB2, Counterblast 2, choose a card from your hand, discard it. Your opponent cannot call his or her units to rearguard until end of your opponent's next turn. That he or she cannot superior call. So in other words, he ups Gredora by preventing everything in all columns at all times from the start of the ability. So you can't like Algiraz or whatever the card's name is in Great Nature or whatever to do things during my turn to use him. He's pretty nice. There are some things that get around him, especially when they do things like place to rearguard or other things like that. You know, like there's some very screwy wordings going around right now that sort of get around him, but honestly it's enough that if I feel I need it, if I'm facing an angel feather player or a gold paladin player, I can really use him. I run 2 Tarantus. These are the GB8. Yes, sometimes people survive the first one. Continuous Vanguard GB8. All your opponent's Vanguards and Rearguards lose their auto skills, cannot intercept, and all your units get plus 5k for each tapped of your opponent's Vanguards and Rearguards. So he can give out plus 20k on average to everything. And that's just good. It's better than Overwhelm, and it just creates more power. You will get there easily, by the way, because you can use, like, you get to GB2 instantly. Poison Sickle, Mutant Deity, Overwhelm. Act Vanguard once per turn, Counterblast 1, choose a face-down card from your G-Zone, turn it face up. You don't have to choose Overwhelm. The fanciest ass mutant in the thing. Whether superior or inferior, one cannot escape from death in the end. Oh boy. The number of your opponent's tapped rearguards and draw the same number of cards as the number of your opponent's tapped rearguards. And if the number of tapped rearguards your opponent has is 1 or less, this unit gets a crit and a drive until end of turn. So you draw 1, gets an extra drive and a crit. Let's say your opponent wipes their own field through Great Nature or Kagero shenanigans or something. That means that sorry. Oh no, that's part of the art. That means that you get the crit and the drive. All right? They don't get saved by that. It punishes them for it. If they play a full field, she still he? I don't know. I think it's a she. I'm going to say it's a she. She still punishes them for it. There's no point in the game or that I don't punish them. Continue. If they run 2, I still draw 2 cards. I still get what she promises. I just don't get the crit. Anyway. Continuous Vanguard GB3 Dark Device. All your units get plus 2k for each face-down card in your opponent's damage zone. I only run 3, and that's because by the time I get to GB8, I should just be GB8ing them. Get plus 2k for each face-down card in your opponent's damage zone. Gredora flips down cards in the opponent's damage zone. Your opponent has to use Counterblast to pay for skills. Ergo, it's usually a pretty high number. It gives it to the full field. Usually, if I go first, I almost always try to get a heal in hand to G-guard them. That's why it's important to follow order of operations to figure out whether you're going first or second based on what's before you mulligan your hand. You shouldn't try to kill yourself to try and get a heal trigger, but at the same time, if you know you're going first, you can send back cards you would need that would be wasted for you because of GB lock and search for a heal trigger to guard G-Guardian yourself so that you get the GB3 as early as you can for that little bit of extra pressure, which is all about what this new Megacolony deck is about, and its pressure is incredibly strong. It was a completely different beast from what Darkface used to be. The only change I'm considering with this right now is I'm just experimenting with the trigger lineup, and I might replace an Alcibiades with an OG Darkface. Just one. Just in case. I can search it out with Little Dorcas, and it would show up in different skill matches that ignore Gredora's skills. Like if we're facing something that unflips damage like all the time, or if we're fighting something like Bermuda or something that pulls out multiple attacks out their ass, I might want to go OG Darkface. And in fact, I think you know, depending on how I do in this tournament today and what the playtesting does, I might just go there anyway. Not because I want to lose another 21k attacker, but because if I'm facing Enigmatic Assassin, a Blade Wing build, and I can say, and they attack me with their Vanguard, and then they pull out an Enigmatic Assassin. So they attack. They pull out an Enigmatic Assassin. I declare I tap that Enigmatic Assassin. They then have to attack me with their Vanguard because they have declared an attack and they can't stop. It's fantastic. I love the timing on that thing. Because there's a gap there that you can mess with it. And you can say the if skill. I declare an attack. I use the skill. I place it. It is now being placed. I can now choose my attacker. Hold, friend. I choose that because you place something, I can interrupt the skills to tap it. There's an order of operations to it that allow me to stop what they're doing while the on-place ability is active, as I understand it. If I am wrong, somebody who knows the rules and who knows me personally may tell me. But I'm saying that there are gaps in skills that OG Darkface does better than Gredora does. Gredora is all about power and punishing your opponent's abilities and what they're doing and what resources they're using. OG Darkface is more about their skills, their on-effect rearguards, and so on and so forth. So let's answer a few questions that you're probably sort of asking me. First off, why only 3 Overwhelm? Again, by the time you use all 3 Overwhelm, you probably have used a G-Guard. You should go into your GB8 for the kill. Why no Darkface? I tried using Darkface's skills, however, I found that I needed the Sea Breeze, the Paraspear, and the Anguish Sword a bit more than I needed Darkface's, and the extra G-Guard. Why the Obturandus if you don't use them? You never know, and there's always a chance for it. Do you ever use Anguish Sword? No, but he's nice to have. There's also a time if you don't get these 3 and you still have a Counterblast, you might as well go into Anguish Sword to get the same skills. Do you ever go through all your G-Guards? Yeah. Why do you not run any Relish Ladies? I'm thinking of running 2. However, the problem is if I have to spend one of my new G-Guard, new heals, and I waste it on, and then I have to use a Relish Lady, and her skill only works on her, which is to draw with a grade 1 or less. It's nice to be able to use up, like, I got Chafers or Brilliant Blisters when I'm not facing a restand deck. You know, it just does something with it. Could be turned into a 10k more or a Perfect Shield or something. If I have to choose between those 2 skills, like, I kind of need the Counterblast a little bit more. Again, this deck, if you're facing a smart player, is greedy for Counterblasts, and if the player, you know, again, can do it, he can Counterblast starve you, forcing you to take minuses, like, say, using one of your stand triggers to get, to prevent abilities going off. Like, sure, this is nice. If you ride it first, it's great. You Soul Blast it out for her skill or some other skill. And then she... what I like doing is I like riding him, using her skill to Soul Blast him, and then I've, like, Perfect Shielded their first stride or something like that, so I can just take the second stride. And then I get another draw and a counter charge. Which might help me use an Overwhelm if I'm at, like, 2 damage. And I've already used 1 for her skill, and then, like, a Promulava earlier. You know, it's all about those chaining things together, resource management. Megacolony is still about resource management. However, it's changed so that you have as many options as you want to get there. Promulava is an early draw. Countercharge, draw, so on and so forth. Draw, power, field control, damage control, power, fun. You know, field control, power, as well as activating Dark Device skills. He, by the way, isn't a Dark Device skill. Power, as well as defense during your grade 2 phase, which is important because Aqua Force is still a thing. I think that answers just about all my questions. Oh, why don't I use Punish Stag? Punish Stag is pretty good, but I have no problem with draw, so I prefer having Volgar Blizzard's Column Shutdown over Punish Stag's draw. And besides that, people usually rewrite over it anyway. It's better not to have something that persists beyond the turn it was placed, rather than something that can only be used once. Bulgawasp is the kind of exception because he's a 16k attacker by himself, which is utterly savage. And that's, by the way, 16k base. Like, that's where he starts. I'm not gonna say that's where he ends up. Yeah. That's just about all I want to say here. I don't really think I have anything like that. Because I don't focus on things like Punish Stag, I do need the draw a bit, and the fact that they go into Soul is actually very good. Oh, there's a crit that is return this unit to the deck, a grade, choose something in the opponent's back row and it can't stand or something like that. I find that I need the extra draw just a little bit during early game and during most of the mid game, while I'm getting Overwhelm up to speed, getting plus. Like, it's a really great defensive trigger. That's what it comes down to. And also, like I know this is fairly low-key, because most Megacolony players just aren't very good. Just because it's like a combination of the deck, but also it's a mindset that you have to get into about resource management. But basically, having a stand trigger shuts down other Megacolony decks. You know, this is a Dark Device skill. The plus 2k for every counter blasted. Flipped over, face down, card in your opponent's damage zone. So in other words, standing the card behind your Vanguard, is minus, 20k to each column. Like, there's things you can do with it at every point in the game. To fuck over some aspect of someone's playstyle. I tested this against Neonectar, did alright. The power for Neonectar gets pretty strong, and if I don't take the right amount of damage, because I have to manage the own damage I take, and this is a super defensive deck. I can, defend early without hurting myself too much, except in the counterblast form. That I just have to be careful of. This is a very strong deck. This is a deck that could take me all the way to Worlds. I just have to be good enough to play it. And that's what it comes down to, I guess. I have to be willing to master this deck. It's a different style than the decks I've mastered before for Megacolony, but it's got all the same pieces. Shouldn't take me too long. I'm going to Kansas City. I'm going to Indianapolis ARG. And I'm going to the Springfield Shop Tournament. That's 3 weeks of travel. I'm going to get good at this deck. I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any other questions for this build, please, give them to me. I'll be happy to answer them when I notice them. I don't get notifications, so, sorry. Let's see here. Just trying to think, is there anything else? I really hope people do start picking up Megacolony, though. I hope this helps more new players play this great deck. But I'm under no delusions about this. This deck's really good, but I still have to be good enough to play it. And I think I am, honestly. Pick up your Overwhelms when they're cheap, or else you're going to get fucked forever. Please stop the Obturandus hype. It's not as necessary. I could change this deck to no Obturanduses and just 2 Dark Faces, and I might actually do better with it than with Obturandus. But you never know. I could just be talking out my ass. I'm not talking out my ass about how this deck works, though. It works like a dream. I just need to get better. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Imagine Your Goddess. Check out our merch. It's always great. It's always a great day when you make a sale, and it's always a great day when we bring that sale to the happy, happy customers. Thank you, and have a great evening.